Hello there, and welcome again to the latest episode of VIP Boxing's Bell to Bell podcast. As always, with me is John Evans there in the middle now of Ring Magazine. How's it going? Is the job going well, John, first of all, before I introduce our guest?
All go at Ring Magazine, as I'm sure you're aware. Plenty in my pipeline, but yeah, everything mad rush every day to try and keep content coming out for everybody.
Brilliant. So I'm glad it's good. Well, are you enjoying it? That's the most important thing, John.
Yeah, it's all good fun, isn't it? You mix in with the great and the good when you're involved with boxing. That's why we do it, isn't it? It's good.
You're like me, John. You take nothing for granted in this game because we love boxing, and you mix with the great, good, and the not so good. Tonight we're mixing with the greatest, one of the greatest fellas you'll meet in boxing. He's the number one guest on this pod since it's been going, 160 episodes, whatever. No one disputes that. Former British featherweight champion who himself has experienced in the last few months the highs of boxing and the lows of boxing. Ryan Walsh. Ryan, thanks very much for joining us and coming on to Bell again. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, Steve. John, it's always a pleasure. You're boxing people like myself, so this will be an era of my life that I enjoy, guaranteed to enjoy.
Well, I tell you what, before we crack on, just one question really from me. I've touched on it there. The highs and lows of the last few months for you. Mad emotions, I'm guessing, from the grudge win against Reese to the fight the other week.
Yeah, it's all within the space of 10 weeks, I think that worked out at. Let's call it 20 weeks in the process of both the fights, and it was, 1 minute you're on top of the world, next minute you're under it. But I've got a really good setup around me, and I think in life, your highs are never that high and your lows are never that low if you're a balanced human, which I think I am. Yeah, so right. I think boxing is my drug, simple as that, and I'm going to do this to death. So as high, I never got as high as I enjoyed the Reese win because it was made personal a little bit later on in the process, and I didn't get time to feel sorry for myself. I still felt sorry for myself. I was beat by a better, younger man on the night. So I've always been able to take that. I've had 3 or 4 genuine losses now. I think it says 5 on box rate, but in my heart, 4 of them. They were just better men on the night, and I give them all credit, all respect, and it'd be nice if I could fight them all again, because I would. In times gone by, we could have had plenty of different, I could have fought them more, but no regrets, just simply they were the better men on the night. And like I said, I've got a good family around me and good people around me, and I've got a new girlfriend who helped me because we went to Rome like the day after. And, it was her birthday, the day after. We went to Rome the day after that. And I didn't have time to feel sorry for myself. She had me walking around Rome on her phone. It said 16,000 steps a day. And I'll tell you what, I was tired anyway. So I was wrecked. That wasn't a holiday. That was like, it was mental. But it was a way to keep my mind off the fact that I've just got to a certain point again and failed again. And I've failed multiple times in this sport. But at least it was to good men. I never failed to anyone who was subpar. I lost to. If you look at my last few losses to the people I've lost to, they've all gone on to do good things. And I expect this I expect Sam to at least fight for a world title next. So if you look at Maxie Hughes before that, if you look at my first genuine loss in the sport was to Lee Selby. Look what he done. So no regrets, no excuses. Better men won, and I'm just hoping Sam goes on and does. Like, the better Sam does, the less worse I'll feel, I suppose.
Yeah, and two questions, Ryan. How good is Sam? And would you have been a gladiator then? You've been to Rome. Would you have been in that Colosseum? Would that have been your calling back in the ancient times?
1,000,000%. I think anyone who finds a way to the ring, to the boxing gym, has got something in them, because your DNA, your blood, that's all your history. So I've been lucky enough to go. I think I've told you about this before. I went to London Tower, and I've seen loads of Walshes there. And whether it's gladiators or in a field fighting, I think it's in us. So yeah, I definitely would have been a gladiator. And the best way to explain with Sam is what I told him on the night, and nothing's changed. You start a fight, so you're both there. I'm trying to get the camera right here, and it turned out for me, he was a bit better than I expected. And I was a bit, gotta go this way. And I was a bit not as good as I expected to be. So the gap ended up being a lot bigger. And like I say, I've got no excuses. Full credit to him. He's a solid, young and he's a little bit quicker than I expected as well. He doesn't look that fast when you're watching him, but he's got a sneaky little uppercut, which I think if one punch has ever ruined a fight for me, it was that. So I've given him all the credit. I can't give him any more, and he definitely beat the best version of me then, that's for sure. So there's no excuses for me, but I needed to be better and a bit sharper.
And just finally, before we kick on with a pod, you're coming back 4-rounder or 6-rounder, is it? Is it February 8th or 9th in Norwich?
No, it's Ipswich, so it's just
just
up the road, and we've got 3 from our gym on. So that's brilliant.
Boys.
Yeah, we're going up to the Tractor Boys, and gonna have a good night up there. I'm sure of it. Graham's got 3 fighters on. Graham's got a really busy start to the year. He's got 3 fighters on in February, another fighter on in March, and then another fighter on. So he's got February, March, and another fight in April. So he's really busy. It's good. It's really good to see.
Brilliant. Well, I'll tell you what, we'll kick on with a pod. As I say, we've got our new producer and content man, Darren, who you saw earlier. Who you know, he's the top dog round here now, and he's a bit strict, is Darren. Me and John used to let things go. When John rings that bell at 3 minutes now, you zip it, because Darren isn't a man to be messed with. You didn't think John was. Darren, you do not mess with.
What you'll do, Ryan, you'll start hearing like a countdown on 5 seconds, so it gives you a warning. Ultra professional now, bell to bell.
I'll be as brief as I can on my topics, so as we see it, you people want to listen to. You ready for round 1, John?
Let's go.
Has he gone for good? Tyson Fury, I don't believe it. Tyson Fury announced his retirement again for 6th, 7th time today. Don't believe a word of it. I think he'll come back and fight Joshua. I just wonder why he did it today of all days. He's been paid a fortune by the Riyadh season people, and he's gone and announced it on a day they've got a major press conference in London with Bivol, Beterbiev, Parker, Dubois. Bit disappointing that. And obviously, Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren, who want to put that Joshua fight, and we're very diplomatic, wishing him all the best, but I don't think either of them really believe it. What do you guys think?
I'm with you. But it's for maximum exposure to do that. So it's quite clever to do it then. Because I've noticed with all these really good fighters, they know how to get the most exposure, and they know the time. It's all about timing. I don't believe that. No. There's always money to drag anyone off out of retirement, and Fury's retired more than most people. So yeah, him and Joshua, I think it has to happen. I think the Turk wants it to happen. So yeah. So I don't believe I'm with you.
John?
Yeah, I agree. All the clips we've seen the last couple of days the Bulldogs just walked in my room, are of Joshua, Daniel Dubois, Joseph Parker at the big Riyadh season events and Ring Magazine Award events. And Tyson might feel like he's just missed the boat a little bit there, might he? So he's announced it. I don't believe it. Whatever he does, he's going to come back, isn't he? But I think the Joshua fight will be just too big to turn down.
Yeah, it's enormous. I mean, they fight twice this year, then you'd expect them both to retire. 2 fights this year, then I don't think it's pointless either in fighting Uysk again. They're not going to fight the young guns who are emerging, will be the dominant forces in the division in 18 months' time. It's just not going to happen.
It's still the most interesting fight in boxing, especially for us Brits.
For us, yes, for us. Definitely.
Yeah, and I think worldwide it just grabs the attention. Usyk's the best. That's undoubted now. He's beat Botham twice, but it's still a fight that we all want to see, and that's what I love about boxing at this moment in time. It's a lot more old school, I suspect, at a time when losing didn't really matter as much. It's the best fights. We want to see the best fights. And
Fury did well against Usyk second time.
Yeah.
It wasn't as if after the first one, he got outclassed. He wasn't the same. I thought he looked pretty good. I thought it was a draw. Second fight.
I scored it on my phone, and I give him by 3, and one of them rounds was a draw, so that's a swing round. But I asked this question to everybody. Who was better in the first fight, Usyk or Fury? They say Usyk. Who was better in the second fight, Fury or Usyk? Fury. So you've got a better version of Fury and a worse version of Usyk, and you still give it to Usyk. Yeah. It's one of them. And I didn't agree with the 4 rounds against him at all, no. And the things I heard about the statistics afterwards. Oh.
No.
Was it you plan to finish on Usyk there, Ryan? Because you're going to talk about the unrivaled road warrior.
I believe wholeheartedly that we might be talking about somebody who will stand the test of time for not 50 years, maybe 100, maybe longer, because one of my favourite fighters to talk about for various reasons is Sugar Ray Robinson. But I think we're talking about that in our time. We're looking at a man who's dominated 2 divisions. And the one thing that I give him the highest praise for is one of my favourite fighters was a little man beating up big man Mike Tyson. He's my favourite. He's just phenomenal. But Tommy Usyk in doing that. In his last 2 fights, in fact, his last 4 fights, so 2 against Fury and 2 against Joshua, he gave away stones. We're not talking 1 stone, 2 stones, 3 and 4 stones, 5 inches, so much reach. If you give any man, them in any other weight division, them disadvantages, they cannot win, but this guy can. And that for me is the greatest of this era. So before him, it would have been Mayweather. Now it's Usyk. Just by sheer numbers alone for what he's done and how he's done it. And like I said on the road, me and my brother talk about Usyk a lot. He's a different type of animal because I don't think he's ever had a fight in Ukraine. His whole career, pretty much amateur and pro, has been aware. And he's just been a phenom, and I'm happy for him because he seems a really good. I've never met him, but he seems a real good, honest human who's reaping the rewards of just working hard and having supreme talent and being a southpaw, man. I can't say nothing more good about him. I'm gutted because I wanted Fury to win. I wanted the trilogy. It was better for boxing for me. I thought that'd be a better story, but he is special. He is the greatest of this time for me.
Yeah, he's fought in Ukraine, but never had a world title there. I think it's something like nearly just over 9 years since he won it. And as you say, he's beaten the 2nd and 3rd best heavyweights of this generation twice. That means you stand up in history, John. And 2000 the European amateurs, I think, in Liverpool. So that's 17 years or 16 years at the top, John.
Like Ryan said, a road warrior, that's usually someone who doesn't mind going away. They get rinsed on the scorecards every now and then, but they just keep turning up. He's never, although he's got the decision, there's never really been, the vast majority of people have thought he won every fight. There's not been one where he's benefited from a dodgy decision. He's been the winner of every single fight. And what more can you say about that? It's phenomenal, isn't it? And the fact is, he can't just turn around and spark someone with one punch at heavyweight. If he's having an off night, he can't just turn it around with one shot. Given his style, given his size, he's got to be on it, hasn't he? And he's been on it for every fight at heavyweight. It's been a phenomenal run, really.
Round 3, John. Comments over the weekend from His Excellency Turkey saying that boxing fans and boxers need to understand a loss isn't the end of the world. Your comments on that?
Out of everything that's come around from the Saudi Arabia things and the things Turkey says and the fights he's made, I think this is one of the most important things he's said, where a loss isn't the end of the world. And he actually referenced the UFC. He said, boxing needs to become more like the UFC where fighters lose but we come back. Fantastic. That's what we want to hear. If fighters aren't inclined to believe that one defeat will send them to the back of the queue, the more the top guys will take more and more fights. That's what we want. And the fights he's making now, it's inevitable you're going to lose unless you're Usyk, because Usyk wins every time. You are going to pick up a defeat. And the fact that he's saying, right, so what? As long as you give your all, you get beat, we'll put you back in another fight. Perfect. That's what we want. And if that can start happening at the top guys, because the top guys set the tone and it drops down through the levels, the sport's going to be better off, isn't it? Slowly but surely, things seem to be coming round. But I think that's a really important statement that he's made there.
I couldn't agree more with you, John, because as a loser on my last fight, I just feel like if you can we're never defined by a win, so how can we be defined by a loss? We've got to be defined by how we react to both. I feel like he's so good for boxing, and if you can mirror and mimic the UFC, because they're top 10, every one of them are good enough to be world champion in the top 10, and then you get your standouts, but they all fight each other. So if he stays on that path, as a boxing fan, because I'm a boxing fan, I might be a boxer, but I'm a boxing fan, and the impact and the quality of the shows and everything that they're doing this Riyadh season in Turkey, I'm a huge fan of it. Huge fan.
Yeah, Turkey's saying that he's the man with the power to make sure he sticks to that because boxing's doing what he wants. So we're in a position where the man that is the most important person in our sport by a million miles, there's a lot of important people. He's got the clout to do that, to bring people back from defeats. And and that's why you gotta believe he's going to do it. I mean, he says a lot, and as John says, it was a very important point. But the first thing I thought was, well, you're the man who can make sure that happens. No one else. Well, other people can because they've got the fighters, but you're the man that can insist on it happening through the wealth you're bringing to the sport.
That's it. I think to a certain extent it's been happening, hasn't it? But more importantly is the people, because everyone now wants to get on a Riyadh season show, don't they? But if the small guys, the guys who are 12, 13 and 0, if they see him talking like that, then hopefully it encourages them to take a risk. So I just hope that attitude filters right down through the sport.
I'll tell you what, carrying on with the Turkey, if you didn't know that he runs boxing, you certainly did with the names, the who's who of boxing that rocked up at Greenwich the other night for the Ring Awards, whatever it was. And I mean, I don't think you'd get Canelo or Ryan Garcia flying halfway across the world to sit and eat dinner at 11 o'clock at night in London unless it's something they had to be at. And crucially, Ben Shalom, crucial to Ben Shalom's future as a promoter is Callum Simpson. He even missed his show in Sheffield to be part of that night. Joe Gallagher had Billy Dinez in his biggest fight ever so far against Mickey Ellison, and he was there. It just shows how important this guy is and how everyone is just doing what they feel it's right to be around him and what he's doing for boxing. I mean, I knew that was on the weekend of someone, and I had no idea it was anything that monumental. I don't know what John did because he's working for Ring Magazine now, but that was quite staggering, that turnout at the weekend. And that photo of all the promoters and great champions, all under with that marvellous backdrop in the Naval Museum, wherever it was, is a boxing photo for the ages now. That you talk about Alexander Usyk's legacy in 100 years' time, people will look at that photo in 100 years' time, almost like when you look at these great American photos of the 30s and 40s. Incredible and amazing, that the people were missing big nights. They're involved. They're paramount in themselves to be there. Shows how important, how much this Saudi money and boxing in Saudi is meaning to the industry.
Well, I'll go on top of that with you, and that point to you, both you lads. In all your time in boxing, have you ever been so excited? Like truly excited as a boxing fan? As this is so exciting because he's got a chance. As UFC fans, like me and John, he could be the Dana White of it. And as long as his heart's in the right place, and it looks like it is, his head and money is in the right place. Get the heart in the right place, the sport can only be better. There's people. It's for me. It's the most excited I've been in all the time I've been a boxing fan. I reckon I've been a boxing fan since before I even know what it was. So a good 20, 30 years. You lads are a lot longer than me, no doubt. I'm really excited. All the best fights are happening.
Go on.
Yeah. I don't want to sound like I'm just saying it's good because I do work for him nowadays, but that's not the case at all. We've been saying it for 18 months, haven't we? This is what it's needed for sport. It's needed for big fights to be made. I used to love it. I used to get excited for De La Hoya against Quartet on pay-per-view. I could still tell you the full card, but we're getting one of those every 2 months now, aren't we? So yeah, this is the most excited I've been.
Oh, man, Ryan Walsh is round. He's pushing himself to Saudi now. He's going to be involved in a prize fight today. Yeah. You want to bring back prize fighter, I think. Yeah. Be part of it in Saudi.
Well, I've done a little bit of research today, and Eddie's talking at the end of 20. I was looking at it earlier because it started in 2015. I've got it all on here, and I didn't realise my good friend and ex-gym mate, Sam Sexton, won the second one. And he then goes on to beat in 2 really good fights in Ireland the first prize fight winner. I just think it's an exciting one-night, one-off special where you can introduce young blood, keep all blood in, and new blood, like your new blood, old blood, and a mix. And it never failed to deliver for me. I was shocked how long it actually went. I've got the list here. It went up to prize fight. It went up to prize fight 35, and that finished in 2015. So I think it's about time now. We're 10 years later. Although they are saying they're doing a different type of it, because I think prize fighters spawned the WSB and other tournaments like it, but I do think there's a gap there now. I think there's a market for it, and maybe somebody tell Turkey that this could be a good thing for boxing, and he might do it. You never know. I think it's definitely I think the time's right. The time is right. It's been a decade since we've had it. So from the start of it,
it's definitely got legs. I think for Saudi, where you call it the Saudi million with $1 million prize to the winner. It's definitely got legs. I'm going to pass you over to John, but I just don't think Turkey and Saudi's quite ready for Michael Walsh. Over to you, John.
I love the tournaments. Do you remember like the old heavyweight ones, A Fistful of Dollars with Maurice Harris and people like that?
Yeah.
Or the one in the Mississippi. I did a big story on it. The big one night tournament with Tony Tubbs in Mississippi. Biloxi, sorry. Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah, I'm all for tournaments. I'd have a heavyweight tournament every couple of months as well, because heavyweight one night are even better, aren't they? But yeah, bring back Prize Fighter. It was really good. I even enjoyed it when it was down as the Ultimate Boxer. You know, when Ben Shalom first got his break and got on Sky and stuff like that. I didn't like all the corny colours and all stuff like that. Let the guys wear their own kit. But yeah, bring back Prize Fighter.
It's funny you say about the heavyweights, because of the first 5, 3 of them was heavyweights.
Yeah.
The big boys just draw people to it. And we've
got Sexton, who won them? Rogan, Sexton?
It was Rogan, Sexton, and then on this last one it was... It's not Tony Aoki, is it? I think it's Tony Aoki.
I was with Tony Saturday night. He looks really well.
Yeah.
I saw him Saturday.
Yeah, Tony Aoki. But then would that be light heavy though for that? No, it was light heavy, sorry.
People want to get out.
My phone's gone off.
The third heavyweight was Audley Harrison.
Audley's the big one. Yeah. Right, I'll take over because Steve's disappeared off to make a fight.
Knocked out Michael Sprott in the second round, I think. Revenge Ali Pally, it might have been. Oh, that's what I'm thinking. John, round 6 and small venues, and you was at one Saturday night. That's a cracking venue, by the way.
Yeah, I went over to this Park Community Arena in Sheffield on Saturday for Callum Simpson against Steed Woodall. Brilliant win by Callum Simpson. Steed was a tough test and he just blew him away, didn't he? I've never been in that arena before. I thought it was great. Everyone's got a good view. 2,000 people, something like that.
Yeah, it's a bit old. Yeah.
And Callum sold it out pretty much single-handedly. It was a brilliant atmosphere. When he came out, it felt like a big fight. And that's what a good atmosphere can do, isn't it? And I was sat there thinking, how much better is this than having 4,000 people rattling around in a curtained-off arena where the noise just disappears up and it feels a bit half-hearted and it feels like the event's not picked up, even though it has. I didn't like it. I thought it was a tremendous event, the perfect venue, and I wish we'd go back to doing more of stuff like that.
Yeah, Cannon Medical Arena or Park, what it was called to a few months ago. It's where, of course, where Ryan did the damage to Reese Mould, and it was an electric atmosphere that night.
It was the same venue, was it?
Same venue, where you had
wow, so it's not the Cannon Medical Centre anymore, no?
It was the Park Community. Then it was Cannon Medical, but just when you went in it, they just named it for your night, and that's its new name now. They're doing a Cannon Medical. But no, you know what? The problem's been, I think, John, from the days in the media when Sky abolished the leisure centres and all that, it was TV insisting on these venues because they knew you could have 3,000-4,000 in a venue. You're there, and it's like sitting on a cruise ship with no one on it with you. You know. And all TV will worry about is how good it looks. They can still make it look good with 2,000-3,000 in there. And that's all that worries. So then they're worried about the man who's watching it over to say, we're at the Manchester Arena tonight for Sky Boxing, BT Boxing. And they dress it up for something, even though we know there's 7,000 people in there, and which doesn't even fill the lower bowl at Manchester Arena. So I think it's down to TV. But a lot of these smaller arenas aren't just sports centres now. They're becoming these purpose-built basketball stadiums like the one where Ryan boxed and where Callum won the other night. There's a brilliant one in Scotland, the Caledonia Arena that Ian Wilson's using for his BBC Scotland shows that start next month. So perhaps these leisure centres, the new style of centre is appealing more. I think the one in Newcastle is a basketball arena that looks good.
Well, there's one coming up as well. Pat Brown's making his debut at Altrincham Ice Arena. Brilliant. Yeah. Sell it out. Pack it out, turn it into a big night rather than sticking him in a cordoned off MEN. So, yeah, great stuff.
And that's great for young fighters in them sort of things headlining because boxing's a village. and they hear something sold out, and as that fighter moves on, they want part of it. It's like the Ricky Hatton story that started at Widnes Leisure Centre. What's your opinion, Ryan, on these venues?
It's from the fans' point of view as well. I loved it personally. Obviously, I didn't really get to soak up as much as I'd like to. That was part of the result, whatever. But the fans' feedback on that night was so good. The tiered seating is always good because it gets them close. There's a time and a place for dinners, like for the different type of venue. But I think that's one of the best ones I've been to. I remember Peterborough had a chance to do that, and it only come once or twice. I think I went and watched Jordan Gill box there at Peterborough. But these type of stadium, like but because you get 2,000 in that type of venue, it sounds like 10,000. And I know the feedback that we got from our travelling supporters was brilliant. They really enjoyed it, and me personally, I loved it.
Yeah, been doing their shows there, and I think that's where it picked up from. The Zone went there after one of Izzy's shows, and then Sky have seen it what it looks like, that venue. But it's great. There's a few of these types of venues now coming through, that new basketball arenas, where before the basketball teams would just play on a sports court, wouldn't they? But it's fantastic to see.
Just before we finish, then, did you both watch Callum at weekend? Callum Simpson.
No, I didn't. I've seen the highlight.
Oh, he was good. He was good. Yeah,
did he stop him in two?
You might say it was soft, but
look, the stop. I just saw a clip of the stoppage. It looked ridiculous to me, but it's very easy for us who are just watching on a phone or an iPad. Where I saw it on. That referee, a split second earlier, might have seen a little jab connect and the eyes roll back, and all he can see is whites of his eyes. If he's seen some of that and he jumps in, he's correct. I think it was only going one way, and I think, that's the one thing. The referee may have seen something. This is why maybe referees should perhaps speak a bit more after a fight.
100%. I'd like to hear refs and judges talk. I would. I really would.
Because that referee would have said something tonight. And was it Mark Bates, I think it might have been? Was it?
Mark Bates.
And he's not a bad referee. He's a very good referee. He might have seen something that even the TV cameras don't see. You're standing 7 inches from a man and you see his eyes roll when he's been caught and he's just been dropped. You're jumping in, and so you should.
In America, they have the glasses with the camera. I'd like to see that come in so we can see their point of view, because there's only 3 men in that ring, really. I'd like to see what they see. And he's obviously seen something, hasn't he? So maybe I always go to the fighter to see if the fighter complains. I'm always on the side of the fighter. If he's got enough energy to complain, you might have got it wrong. That's where I'm at. I've always been at that. I've been at that since Groves. When Groves looks at that referee like, what you doing? Bear in mind, he concussed Frosh. Now, Frosh ended the story in the second fight, no problem. But in the first fight, he gets an interview after the fight and goes, they tell him about getting knocked down. He's like, did I? That's concussion.
Right, yeah.
And he took 20 plus right hands, and Groves hadn't even been on the deck. So I'm really cautious, and I don't really like seeing fighters stopped on the feet. I don't.
Yeah.
I'm more barbaric. You say about being a gladiator. Well, let's be a gladiator. I'm always for, what is that? Let the fighter choose that. I'm not for that. Let's do, ruthless.
That's it. We've overrun the 3 minutes there. Yeah, John's bell didn't even go off. But when it's Ryan Walsh, you just talk and talk and talk. Ryan, I can't thank you enough for coming on again. I hope you'll be on in a couple of months' time anyway, again. Before your next big fight, because I'm sure I know there's going to be another one for you. John, thanks as always for giving us some time. John, seeing as you're so busy now. John's life now is not Arnold's when there's a fight Saturday coming up, mate.
No, this has been a... Look at this thing here, but he's been pestering me and bothering me all the way through there.
His name, mate, what's his name?
There, Lloyd is there. Lloyd.
What's his name?
Lloyd, after...
Lloyd, he's named after Lloyd Hunnigan, Ryan.
Oh, brilliant.
So, yeah, he was nagging and fussing for every second of that.
My missus loves dogs. They're so funny. She follows someone on Instagram. He's got 2 of them. And once they react to food, I wish she's there somewhere to ask her. He's got 2 of them, 2 British Bulldogs, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're brilliant. Does he sleep like lay back on a chair? Like he looks like a human, basically.
Yeah,
Does he sleep like that? They're funny dogs, them, aren't they? Loads of character.
he doesn't normally come upstairs, but within about a minute of starting, he just popped up in my room and just wouldn't leave me alone all the way through. So
Ryan Walsh's insight. But fellas, thanks very much for tonight. And John, all the best with your new job. I'm sure it's going to be a success.
For all boxing info, news and latest interviews, amateur and pro, across the north, click and subscribe. VIP Boxing Promotions. Also Twitter, Instagram and Facebook.